Have you ever felt that sick feeling in your stomach when you just know something is wrong? That's what I felt when my son was about to marry the wrong woman. Everyone thought she was perfect, beautiful, charming, sweet. But I knew something was off dot, and on his wedding day, the truth exploded in front of everyone. When I walked in with her real husband, before I tell you what happened, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon because this story will make your heart race and remind you how dangerous lies can be. When my son Mark first introduced us to Olivia, she looked like the kind of woman every mother dreams her son will bring home. Tall, graceful, with a polished smile that seemed to brighten the whole room. She carried herself like she had stepped out of a magazine, perfectly styled hair, expensive perfume, and a confidence that made you notice her instantly. The first night she joined us for dinner, she charmed everyone at the table. She complimented my roast chicken, said it tasted just like her grandmother used to make. She laughed warmly at my husband's old army stories, the kind of laugh that seemed rehearsed but still convincing. And when she slipped her hand into Mark's under the table, he lit up like a boy seeing fireworks for the first time. At that moment, I wanted to believe she was real. I wanted to believe this was love, but mothers notice things others don't. Her eyes didn't shine when she looked at Mark. They sparkled only when conversations drifted toward money, possessions, or status. She asked little questions here and there. So, Mark, do you get a yearly bonus? Does your family own this home, or is it rented? Wow, the silverware is lovely. Is it passed down? At first, they seemed like casual questions, but the way she leaned in, the way her eyes lingered, it was as if she was cataloging every asset in our family. I brushed it aside. Maybe I was being protective. Maybe I just wasn't ready to let another woman into my son's heart. But even as I told myself that, something inside me whispered, this isn't right. As wedding plans began, the red flags grew bigger, almost impossible to ignore. But I tried. For Mark's sake, I tried. Olivia wanted a wedding that looked like it belonged in a celebrity magazine. She insisted on a grand ballroom with chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds. She wanted white orchids imported from Thailand, flown in days before the wedding. She had picked a designer gown worth more than Mark's car, and when I gently suggested a simpler option, she gave me a smile so cold it made me shiver. Mark, blinded by love, brushed it all off. Mom, every bride dreams of her big day. Let's just give her this, he said, exhaustion hidden behind his hopeful grin. But I watched him work extra hours, draining his savings, stressing himself to meet her endless demands. He lost weight, dark circles etched under his eyes. Yet he kept telling himself it was worth it because Olivia would be happy. That's what scared me the most. My son wasn't thriving in love, was drowning in it. And Olivia, she was never satisfied. Every time Mark gave her something, she raised the bar higher. A bigger cake, a more expensive band, a honeymoon in Paris, not Greece. I remember one night I overheard her whispering to a friend on the phone. Her voice was sharp, not sweet. She said, if he really loves me, he'll find a way. Money shouldn't be a problem for a man who cares. Those words cut me. They weren't the words of a woman in love. They were the words of someone testing how far she could push, how much she could take, but still. I stayed silent because, as mothers, we are told to smile, to support, to avoid interfering, and so I folded my hands in my lap, praying I was wrong, even as my stomach churned with dread. It was just 5 days before the wedding when everything changed. I had gone to the florist that afternoon to finalize the bouquets. I remember the smell of fresh lilac and roses filling the air, soft music playing in the background. My hands were full of notes, scribbled with Olivia's endless requests: purple orchids, gold ribbons, rare lilac that had to be special ordered. That's when I heard it. 2 women standing near the hydrangeas, speaking in hushed voices. At first, I didn't pay attention until I heard Olivia's name. Can you believe she's doing it again? One woman whispered. The other chuckled. Another man who has no clue. Poor guy doesn't know she's already married. The words sliced through me like ice. I froze, my heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear anything else. I turned slowly, my voice trembling as I asked, "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" The women looked at each other, hesitant, but one finally sighed and said, "You must be his mother. Listen, we're not trying to be cruel, but Olivia's been married for years. To Daniel Collins. She never divorced him. Everyone back in her old neighborhood knows." I nearly dropped the bouquet I was holding. My knees went weak, and I had to grip the counter to steady myself. Married? Already married? My son's bride tobe was someone else's wife. The women, seeing the shock on my face, softened. One of them gently added, "Please, check for yourself. We don't want to see another man ruined." I left the shop in a haze, my vision blurring as I walked to my car. My hands shook on the steering wheel the whole drive home. Questions screamed in my head. Was it true? Could Olivia really be living this double life? And if it was true, how could I tell Mark without breaking his heart completely? That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the dark window, clutching a cup of coffee gone cold. Every smile Olivia had flashed, every request for more money, every cold little remark, it all came rushing back like pieces of a puzzle I had ignored. I had to know the truth, so I called an old friend of mine who worked in public records. My voice shook as I asked her to look up Olivia's name. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, the kind of pause that makes your stomach twist. Finally, she spoke. "I'm so sorry, but yes, she's still married. Married to Daniel Collins. The paperwork is clear, there's no divorce, no separation on record." I stared at the email she sent me, my hands trembling. A scanned copy of a marriage certificate. Olivia's name, bold and undeniable. It wasn't just rumor. It was real, but I couldn't stop there. I needed more. So I searched her name online, scrolling late into the night. Old photos surfaced Olivia and Daniel together at a holiday party, his arm around her, both of them smiling. A tagged photo of the two of them at a beach, dated just last year. Every picture was a dagger in my chest. This woman wasn't just a gold digger, she was a fraud. A liar weaving her way into my son's life while still tied to another man. And the more I uncovered, the angrier I became. How could she look me in the eye and talk about family traditions while hiding such a betrayal? How could she stand beside my son, planning a wedding, while still bound to someone else? By dawn, I had only one thought. I couldn't let this wedding happen. I couldn't let my son walk down the aisle blind to the truth. The next few days were pure torment. I had the truth in my hands, but it felt like a sword if I used it. I would cut my son's heart in half. I watched Mark buzz around the house, stressed but excited, his suit pressed and ready, his vows written out in shaky handwriting. His eyes shone with hope every time Olivia texted him, even though her messages were often just demands. "Did you confirm the caterer? Don't forget to pay the band deposit." He didn't see it, but I did. He was pouring his soul into building her dream, not their life. At night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. The question clawed at me. Do I stay silent, protect him from humiliation, and let him marry her? Or do I break his heart before she can destroy him? The guilt of silence pressed heavier than the fear of truth. I couldn't let my son walk into a lifetime of lies, so I tracked down Daniel, Olivia's real husband. When I called him, his voice was weary, almost broken. "You must be Mark's mom," he said before I even explained. "I've been through this before. She uses people. Money, gifts, security. That's all she cares about." My throat tightened. "Would you be willing to come forward? To stop this before it's too late?" There was a long silence. Then his voice hardened. "If it means saving another man, yes. I'll do it. We made a plan. It felt surreal, like preparing for war. While guests chose their outfits and Olivia obsessed over tablecloths, I carried the unbearable weight of what was to come. Every time I looked at Mark, I wanted to crumble. He was so happy, so sure, so ready to say, I do. And yet, I knew I had to be the one to tear down the fantasy before it trapped him forever. The wedding day dawned bright and golden. The venue was draped in flowers, candles flickered in tall glass holders, and guests filled the seats with smiles and chattered up. Mark stood at the altar, his suit crisp, his hair perfectly combed, his hands trembling as he clutched his vows. He looked like a man about to step into his future. Then the music began. Olivia appeared at the top of the aisle, dressed in white lace that shimmered under the lights. Gasps of admiration filled the room. She walked slowly, bouquet in hand, her chin lifted, her smile flawless to everyone else. She was the perfect bride. But to me, she looked like a wolf dressed in silk. The ceremony began. The pastor spoke of love, unity, honesty, words that made my skin crawl as Olivia nodded like an angel. Mark stared at her with tears in his eyes, and that was when I stood up. My legs shook, but my voice rang out. Stop. Stop this wedding. The room fell into stunned silence. Gasps, whispers, shifting in seats. Mark turned, confusion and hurt flashing across his face. Olivia froze, her smile faltering for the first time. And then the doors opened. Daniel walked in. His presence filled the room. His eyes locked on Olivia with a mixture of anger and sadness. He held up a folder in his hand. This woman, he said, his voice steady but sharp, is my wife. She has been lying to all of you. The room erupted, just whispering, some shouting, others rising to their feet. Mark's face went pale, his lips parting as if the air had been knocked out of him. Olivia stammered, "It's not what it looks like." But Daniel silenced her with the documents. Their marriage certificate, photos, proof undeniable. Her mask shattered before everyone's eyes. The perfect bride was gone, replaced by a fraud, a liar caught in the very act of betrayal. And as the chaos swirled around us, my son stood at the altar, broken and speechless, staring at the truth that had just ripped his dream apart. The ceremony ended in chaos. Some guests stormed out, whispering angrily about Olivia. Others stayed, stunned, watching the drama unfold like a scene out of a movie. The string quartet stopped mid-song, their instruments hanging silent in the air. Olivia's face, once glowing with pride, was drained of color. Her hands trembled, but not with guilt, with anger. She hissed at Daniel under her breath, "You ruined everything." But no amount of denial could erase the truth. In Daniel's hands, the marriage certificate, the photographs, the proof that exposed her web of lies. Mark stood frozen at the altar, his vows slipping from his hand, fluttering to the floor. He looked like a man whose soul had been ripped out, his dream crumbling in front of family, friends, everyone he loved. I climbed the steps to him slowly, my knees weak, my heart breaking for my boy. He turned toward me with tear-filled eyes, his voice cracking. "Mom, is it true?" I nodded, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm so sorry, but I couldn't let you marry her. Not like this." And then, in front of everyone, he collapsed into my arms, sobbing like he had when he was a child. "You saved me," he whispered into my shoulder, his voice trembling. "You saved my life." Olivia fled the hall, her gown dragging behind her like a ghost of everything she pretended to be. She didn't look back. Her carefully built facade was shattered, her reputation ruined, her mask ripped away in front of everyone she had fooled. The guests never forgot that day. They didn't talk about the food or the decorations or the music. They talked about the bride who was exposed as a fraud and the mother who stepped in to save her son. For weeks, Mark barely left his room. His eyes were hollow, his heart raw, but slowly he began to heal. He leaned on me, on his father, on the people who truly loved him, not for what he could give, but for who he was. And little by little, I watched my son return to me, stronger, wiser, a man no longer blinded by charm, but grounded in truth. That day, I didn't just stop a wedding. I stopped a lifetime of heartbreak. Sometimes love blinds us so deeply that we can't see the cliff ahead. But that's when a mother's love steps in it to control, not to interfere, but to protect. Even when it hurts, Dot, I know some people may judge me. Some may say I humiliated my son in front of everyone. But I ask you this, what's worse? Breaking his heart for a moment? Or watching him lose everything to a woman who only loved his bank account? Love can be painful. Truth can be brutal. But least they destroy everything. And in the end, I chose truth. Because truth saves Dot, so I want to ask you, what would you have done in my place? Would you have stopped the wedding? Or would you have let your child learn the hard way? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the stories that remind us all of the power of love and truth. Because at the end of the day, lies may sparkle like diamonds, but love and truth, they shine brighter.